Our story begins in the caves of Koilos, where the planeswalker Karn searches for the means to eliminate his ancient enemy, the Phyrexians, through use of the Sylex, a powerful artifact from a bygone era. Karn tirelessly searches for something, any clue as to its operation, to put an end to the Phyrexian menace for good. As Karn works, one of his excavator's rumbles turns to a whine as it hits the open air of a cavern. Karn investigates the cavity to find an ancient workshop coated in dust. Intricate glass tubing, beakers, old burners, ancient vials, and shackles adorn the room. It's clear to Karn this once served as an interrogation chamber and a way to experiment on unwilling victims. As Karn explores the room, one thing draws his attention. There, on a dust-covered table, Karn sees an unfired clay tablet, inscribed with a diagram of the Sylex. Karn doesn't recognize the ancient script, so he carefully extracts the tablet to compare to the Sylex, which he already has in his possession. Ancient books crumble to dust at the vibration of Karn's voice as he winces. Karn sits at a table back at the base camp, some distance from the excavator's whirring. He unlocks the custom-built chest encasing the Sylex, removes it, and sets it on the table. To his left sit several letters from Joyra, his old friend and ally, who remains insistent that the Phyrexians are no longer a threat. So far, these letters remain unanswered. Karn refocuses on his task. As he examines the bowl-like Sylex and the clay tablet for clues, he notices that where the Sylex's edge seems roughest, the pattern changes. Karn assumes there must be a piece missing. He snaps the Sylex back into its box and returns to the excavators in search of the missing piece. Another whirring from an excavator rings through the caverns. Another one, broken down on the unforgiving rock of the cave walls and in need of fixing. Karn departs to fix it. As Karn finishes repairing the excavator, he examines the rock. Something is different. Karn pulls the excavator away and reaches into the cavity. An oily black substance drips down his fingers, spattering the ground. Fibrous cables lace in and out of the rock face. This was Phyrexian oil, the same oil which has corrupted his creation, the plane of Argentum, long ago. The Phyrexians are here. Black oil splatters across his torso from the rock face. Cables contract within the wall, writhing. The ceiling shakes and crashes down around him in one fell swoop. After the dust settles, Karn looks towards the path, toward his base camp. It is completely impassable, buried in rubble. There is now only one path, forward. He would have to figure out how to return to the Sylex and the tablet later. Right now, the task is clear. Destroy the Phyrexians right here, right now, before they gather enough strength to leave this cave and start their invasion. A newly revealed Phyrexian tunnel stands before Karn. He has no choice. He presses forward. Ahead, the path opens into a room. Karn sees an engraving of a Phyrexian demon grasping a young human woman, inlaid with diamonds and polished to a fine glistening sheen. As Karn examines it further, he hears a whisper of cloth brushing against stone. Karn turns, hand still pressed to the mural. Karn sees two humans, augmented with metal parts, weeping yellow liquid. One male, one female. Upon seeing Karn's hand at their sculpture, they lunge at Karn, chisels in hand. Karn dodges and swats them to the ground and binds their hands. Karn interrogates the assailants, but gets few answers. The male says calmly, "Karn, I know you. It's good that you came. Sheoldred welcomes you. It's your destiny, Karn, to create for us, to help us, to become one of us." Karn generates 2 gags to stop them from speaking further and contemplates the situation. If Sheoldred was truly here, he would find her and put an end to her machinations here and now. Karn delves further into the caverns, leaving the 2 assailants restrained. The cavern opens into a large room. Below, Karn sees a Phyrexian staging ground, Sheoldred's half-destroyed body hanging from wires. Cultists hurry about, carrying chunks of flesh, tubing, and red milky substances. Karn sees acolytes converting struggling people into Phyrexian abominations on tables. This is the staging ground for the Phyrexian Invasion of Dominaria. Next to Sheoldred, Karn sees a young woman with a mechanical red eye. She directs acolytes here and there, instructed them to gather parts to restore Sheoldred to her completed physical form. Karn visualizes an incendiary device and begins fabricating it. He would end this now. As Karn does this, a klaxon fills the air of the cave. Karn looks back to see the restrained female, now unrestrained, blowing a horn as an alarm to all present. She'd either freed herself or had been freed by another Phyrexian. A red beam dots Karn's chest. Karn drops to the floor, narrowly avoiding a beam fired from the eye of Sheoldred's lieutenant. Karn grips his incendiary device tightly, pushes himself to his feet, and charges down towards Sheoldred, defeating a half a dozen completed Phyrexians, until finally, Karn faces Sheoldred's lieutenant, Rona, who explains that they have great plans for him. Karn defeats Rona but refuses to finish her off, insisting he's not a killer. After a brief exchange with Sheoldred, now conscious, Karn inserts the incendiary device into her chest cavity and attempts to activate it, only to be stopped by a magical device Rona specifically crafted to immobilize Karn. Rona explains there are many staging areas for the Phyrexian invasion and it will not be stopped. Sheoldred bursts into tiny spider-like pieces, swarming over and away from Karn. Rona and Sheoldred make their escape. Rona flips a switch. Karn hears a grating noise, then a series of booms overhead. The cavern falls. Karn feels the weight of several tons of rock on top of him. He lies still, alone with his failure, unable to move, unable to planeswalk, and unable to warn his friends.